Chelsea seem to be in a very different scenario. One, because the expectations around them are so much greater in terms of managers having an immediate impact, but also because they could potentially mount a title challenge. They have a 100% record. So what do they do? What does Sarri do, who's never won a major trophy in terms of this competition?
I think you've got to look at Chelsea's start to the season and drill down underneath one or two things. The Arsenal game, they could have conceded 4 or 5 goals at home to Arsenal that were ripping them apart. And subsequently, they've had games against, I think they've played Cardiff, they've played Huddersfield, they've played Newcastle.
Bournemouth, have they?
Bournemouth. So they've played at least 3 of the teams that are in the bottom 5. So just be careful when you manage expectation on Chelsea a little bit. They haven't played anyone of real note. Arsenal in change, if you like, that, you know, that game could have gone either way. So I'd be very careful in saying whether Chelsea are good enough to have a tilt of the Premier League this year. I don't think they are.
So if that is the case, then is the Europa League a good route for them, for Sarri to try and get that major trophy?
It is, and both managers, we're talking about development, it's another game, it's another opportunity to hammer home his message, his philosophy, get players in the team that maybe haven't played as much, or even players that he doesn't know whether they can do the job that he wants them to do. You know, it asked those questions in the Europa League. Where they went tonight's a difficult place to go and play. You know, that's a good result.
Why is it so difficult to go and play?
It's just it's a very hostile environment. You know, I think the supporters are really get on the front foot, and it's very loud and intimidating. And to go there and win 1-0 is a good result, and they've made some changes. But I agree. I think that there's definitely defensively, what he asks of them defensively, I'm not sure if they're set up, the personnel are really there to be able to cope with that. You know, I think the back four, and when they turn over possession, if they want to get high up the pitch, I think it's a big ask for the 2 centre-backs.
Why? Why do you think that they're not the right people to play that way?
I think they did so well in a 3, and I think David Luiz especially is just so suited to sitting in a 3. And when you put him in a 4 and you leave open space around, I think, you know, it's dangerous for Chelsea. And when they play a team that is on top form, or, you know, a top 3 in the Premier League, I think that's going to be really tested.
William got the... Sorry, Stuart.
Yeah, I think when you roll the clock back, you know, to Conte's time at the club, he was playing a 4, and he looked at it and thought, I've got to go to a 3 because we're getting killed at the back. And I agree with Matty. I think they're so well suited to play a back 3 stroke back 5, you know.
It's a decision that won them the Premier League, isn't it?
It was, exactly, yeah. And listen, I think time will tell. I think the jury's still out, and when they play the better sides in the Premier League, he'll find out that, hey, I'm not sure this personnel can play a 4.
Willian got the goal for them, but it came from a good move from Ross Barkley. What have you made of him this season? It was a signing that raised a few eyebrows. People weren't quite sure what his role was going to be. How's it working out for him, do you think?
I worked with Ross under 21 level, which seems an eternity ago now, where he's permanently been one of these players that's got a great deal of ability, struggled with injury and consistency, and sometimes, dare I say it, sort of game understanding at times, you know. The manager's come in and he started Ross at the start of the season, so he's had a couple of games to have a look at him. His challenge now is to consistently be in Chelsea's team, week in, week out. If he can nail a place in that, opens the door again at international level, and off he goes his career. But consistency's got to be his level.
And consistency in his performances, will that lead to consistency of selection?
Definitely. If the manager can rely on you, and I've been there myself, if the manager can rely on you to deliver a 7 out of 10 week in, week out, you don't have to deliver the 9s, you know. The 7s get you in the team time and time again, because the manager trusts everything you're going to do. He's going to have to win the trust of the manager and make sure he stays in the team, because being in and out of it at this stage of his career, I think he needs to play weekly.
So what do you think, Matt, from what you've seen of him so far this season?
I agree. I think the move to Chelsea, it almost, in terms of from a playing point of view, may not have been a positive thing for him. Obviously, it's a step in the right direction in terms of the club and the level that he's playing at, but that's OK if you're playing. And I know he had a rocky start. The injury, I think he got injured before the transfer, didn't he? And then maybe picked up an injury once he'd signed for Chelsea. So, you know, he had a real tough time for probably nearly 12 months. So to get back fit and to get himself into the team and the manager to have a look at him, I think it's a great opportunity for him. It's whether or not he can actually grab hold of it. almost like take responsibility. And in order to do that, to stay in that team, I think some of the weaknesses that he had are going to have to change. And only time and performances will be able to tell whether he has moved on from that or learnt from that or developed in a way that can make him more reliable in his decision-making.
And we talked about the positives of having this many games in order to bring through either, integrate new signings or bring through young players. But there's also the opportunity to rest players who've been off at a World Cup, for example. Eden Hazard, Sarri said, has complained twice in the last month of feeling fatigue. Is it important that they get a chance to rest him as well? You don't believe in rest, do you, Stuart?
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Let's establish that straight away. I just look at the game like this. You never know when your next injury is coming. You know, all of a sudden, I'll rest, then you cop an injury, you're out for 3 months. It happens to us all. Where if you play the game long enough, you'll cop an injury. You never know when your form's going to come and go. You know, if I got a hat-trick last Saturday, I'd want to play the next game. Now, if the manager calls him aside and say, you know what, I'm changing the team anyway, I'm not taking you all the way to PAOK, you can stay at home. I can understand that, you know, but you've got to manage your squad. I do understand that, but listen, I never see Messi and Ronaldo getting rested. I really don't. They play all the games and they're the best two in the world.
I sometimes think that I kind of agree with that, but I sometimes think that it's almost a tougher decision at times to manage yourself and remove yourself from the situation. Maybe when you're not quite right, you know something you might be fatigued in some way. Normally it's psychological or just the pressure of a situation maybe, and to remove yourself is actually a harder thing to do than to go with the flow. You might only perform 2 or 3 games at a 5 out of 10, whereas if you removed yourself, had that breather, put yourself back in. I think you kind of learn how to manage yourself in that way as time goes on. But I actually think that's a really difficult skill. Yeah,
it might be slightly different as well for defenders. We've both been defenders all our life and we're probably used to running out week in, week out because we don't have to hit the real heights. Yeah. We have to nullify who we're playing against in many ways. The likes of Hazard will be expected to get on top and play a dynamic game all the time and turn matches, you know. As a defender, you're not expected to do that.
So maybe he needs to have a slightly different style, a different type of fitness than maybe a defender would have. 5 changes, though, from the win over Cardiff at the weekend. And although it was a narrow victory, it was a game in which, by all reports, Chelsea were controlling the opposition. Yeah. So does that mean that even if Chelsea, you don't think, can win the Premier League title, they can mount a challenge in the Premier League and in the Europa League?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, this is a massively talented squad of players. I don't think that their squad and their first 11, their best 11, is a patch on Manchester City or Liverpool, but they've got to be in the top 4 this season. We'll excuse Arsenal potentially of not being in the top 4. I don't think we can excuse Chelsea if they don't finish in the top 4. Criticism will come their way accordingly. So they're going to have to make sure that they're challenging on all fronts to be very close as they possibly can to the top of the Premier League and certainly at the latter stages of any European or domestic cup competition.
But 6 wins in a row for them, and as much as we talk about the downsides of the Europa League, often managers can use it as an excuse. How much of it can be a positive if you put in good performances, if you're bringing in young players, integrating new signings and keeping your momentum going?
It's a habit, isn't it? Winning football matches it's a great habit, and it doesn't matter what game it is, just to keep winning, keep hammering the message of winning. Why have we won? People sign up for your philosophy. When you're trying to put that onto a group of players, if you can win matches, it's the biggest strength there for people to actually step back and go, hold on a minute, what this guy's asking, it might be a bit different, but I'm up for this because I'm playing well, we're winning matches, we're on a high, the feeling's good. There's no better way you can make that start. And, you know, it's worked perfectly for him in a way. I think the fixtures have been kind. Yeah. You know, I think that they have, but, you know, he's an absolutely fantastic start for Sarri.
Results can cover up a lot of downsides, they really can. And if you walk through the door and you win your first 6 games, let's say, all of a sudden, as Matty said, people buy into it. They buy into what you're doing on the training ground because they see the results on a Saturday or a Wednesday night or a Thursday night.